So if you'd like to say your name for the record.
My name is Synthia Campbell. Cynthia is with an S like Sam.
Okay, amazing. Can you share your experiences as a multiracial individual in today's society, particularly in light of some of the rise in hate incidents that we've been seeing? Um,
Um, Feeling kind of stuck, like, okay, I'm mixed and I get both sides and there's right and wrong on both sides. And and like this is just all my experience. I think sometimes black people just automatically expect me to take the black side no matter what, even if black folks is wrong, well, you black, well, I'm not 100% black, but they don't want to accept the white part of me. It's like, no, you black, so you got to take black side. um my white friends, I don't think sometimes they quite know what to say. They see me as black, they also know I have a white side, and sometimes they're careful with how they present their opinions, and then sometimes the real them comes out, and I sit there and go, wow, that's who you've been all along. You just did nothing came up for me to know that. um it's different. It's different, so I hope that answers it kind of.
right, like you experience some resistance from the Black community. Um,
Yes.
okay. And is that in the context of like if we see in hate incidents, between different races, there may be less empathy, you think, from individuals that you associate with within the Black community, or you had that experience where feeling like you have to just choose a side even though you are white and Black.
um I'm trying to think how to put it. Da, 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 da. I think they just think that because the black is a little dominant, that I should just automatically be on black people's side, no matter what. They just kind of like, oh, well, you mix water with Kool-Aid, it becomes Kool-Aid. Well, and they just so yeah. I'm not sure quite how to answer it. I'm probably not doing a good job answering it. Um, there's the this is for me as a Christian. There's the black side, the white side, and there's the God side. Now, for me, I go to the God side, but I think sometimes black people just expect, is black, you're just supposed to be on black people's side because that's how society sees you. So you're betraying your black side if you don't, claim to be black or is supportive of stuff that's going on toward black people. And I'm like, well, I don't support wrong.
Have you encountered any resistance or adversity due to your racial background? And if so, how did you respond and overcome it?
Um, I'm trying to put it. My mother was white, and my mother and I used to do in-home care together. And they would send me to Muscoy, which is a predominantly black community in San Bernardino County, and they would send my mother to Redlands, which is a predominantly white community. But I now live in Redlands, so this is years ago. But I would notice the difference. They wouldn't send me where they would send my mother. And when I would go also in the predominantly black communities, they often kind of were resistant to me as well. Because from a distance, you see how light I am. I think they thought I was a white woman pulling up. So there was resistance from both sides. And I ended up working in the office, and I would get calls from white people that would ask to not send a black person out there. And then this is where my black side would kick in. I'm like, but you talking to somebody black, but then that white side would be like, no, calm down. But they would know. Um, and so now even places, we go here. Now I live in Redlands, and my daughter, who definitely looks, black, encountered some racial hatred, and we had to call the police. Um, and I watched as some of the white people just assumed she must have done something. And then there were others that didn't. And then there were blacks that, wanted to go after this person. But I watched the diversity of the people that, and the white people just felt like she did something. And I'm standing here going, this is my child, and we live here, and you guys are supposed to be my friends, and you're not defending her. Um, so it wasn't directed at me particularly, but at my child, which to me was to me too, because you're not supporting me as I'm telling you my daughter was almost beat up by a white man, and you just assuming she must have did. Oh, well, and she didn't say anything. No, she didn't say anything. And I watched these people just kind of, just not talk to me and just don't say anything and go, oh, okay, well, we're just so glad she's okay. But it really did me good when Officer Mendoza went over there and arrested the guy. So anyway.
Right. And I'm sure that that was a difficult experience to navigate. And it sounds like you spoke up and that was your way of having some sort of agency in that situation.
Oh yeah. And my daughter was scared. She was very, very scared, and I thought that the white people who were, working here and my friends and stuff, I thought they would just be appalled. And a couple of them weren't at all. They just, well, she didn't say anything, and what did she do? And they kept asking that. She didn't do her saying she was black. That's what she did. It was just be black. And they just was not accepting that. She must have done something or said something. This was about 2 years ago, and I was just like, wow, okay, and it right across the street from where I live. So it was like, okay, it reminded me of things have changed, but in some ways things have not changed. People are still going to hate. People are still going to be who they are. Um, right here across the street from where I live.
Um, do you think that and that's profound because you think about how in that instance, in a neighborhood where your mother was requested to give caregiving because she was
Yeah,
white, and now you
yeah,
live in that neighborhood and
yeah,
you observe, wow, okay, times have changed, it's become more diverse, but you still have these, you still have within the community these ideas that you have to provoke some sort of hate as
yeah,
opposed to just minding your business. And this hate is clearly directed towards your daughter who is black and from a man who is white.
yeah,
Uh, so that can be difficult to reconcile because there is this idea that we are moving forward as a society. Um, and I think that that is a very specific instance of like how complex it can be to navigate your different racial identities. And your daughter who presents as a black woman. So there's
yes,
nuances there that you kind of deal with as a biracial, multiracial black woman, woman of color rather,
yeah,
and you may be perceived as a black woman from white people, and white people may see you as black.
correct. Most of them do. Some of them think I'm Hispanic or something like that, as I speak a little bit of Spanish. But yes, for the most part, they know that I'm not particularly white, and sometimes they don't know what I am. On the phone, I used to be an operator, and you couldn't tell, um, particularly, but yes, they will many times not know what I am. Then when they do figure it out, some of them are polite and think, "Oh, I thought you were such and such and such and such." So keeps them guessing. And I'm to the point, because I am a believer, I had to get to the point that I knew who I was in Christ, because I already knew both sides got issues with me, and both sides are not going to accept me. Um, but I know who I am and whose I am. But I had to get to that point, because growing up, I was really never accepted.
Were you able to find community? You found community in your spiritual beliefs and your faith. Were you able to connect with other multiracial individuals, how, or was it lonely, or was it something that you had to cultivate within yourself, that resilience?
Growing up was very lonely. There was no one that looked like me. Really, no one had a white mom and a black dad. And my mom had blonde hair and blue eyes. And I grew up in Compton. So I forgot you're in New York. But you could look up the demographics of Compton. And here I was born in the 60s. So there was really no one that looked like me. Um, so I just never fit. As I got older, I still really never fit. Um, I just never fit, really. I couldn't find other people that were mixed like me. And as I got older, it was still a little bit lonely. I'm like, dang, why am I having to choose, if I'm black or if I'm white, or why am I having to explain that I'm a mixture of both? I'll never claim just to be black, and especially with what my mom went through, being a white woman with little fuzzy head kids in Compton. I will not deny my mom. I just will not. She went through too much. Her family disowned her, you know. But now, as I've gotten older, I have found community. But you know what? I like I said, my identity rests in Christ. But I have found community in every race of people. Um, if Asians, black, white, Mexicans. I surround myself, and I call these women my sisters, because they are. And when I mix with my Mexican friends, I can hablar poquito español. When I'm with my black friends, but I do have a god sister who's light like I am, and she grew up in Diamond Bar, and because she didn't fit the stereotypic black, we understand that they expected her just to be a certain way, because she is part black. So we can understand how people look at us and expect one thing from us, and we don't give that, and then they think we're a sellout or an Oreo or whatever. I laugh at all of it. I just think it's profoundly ignorant.
No, and that's very interesting, and just hearing your personal story, of how you found community. You see yourself as a person first, but you understand that there are nuances to your identity. Have you ever felt like you did experience privilege because you were of a lighter skin tone?
Yes. And it's funny you asked me that. A friend of mine that asked me, did I feel that I was privileged because of it? I'm like, no, they just, and I'm gonna say this really direct. I said they, whatever we were talking about that particular incident, I said they just consider me a light skinned nigga. There's no privilege, and we were talking about something very specific. But when I used to do home care and when I worked in different settings, um, because I didn't speak black or have black features, I felt I was more accepted. Now, that's not my fault or me thinking I'm better, but I'm looking at how I'm perceived in white settings, and how there was a very wealthy white woman I used to take care of years ago. And she made it very clear to people, I don't want any more black girls coming in to take care of me except for, Synthia. Well, and the sad part was the black girls that came stole from her. So I don't know if it was a color thing, but the family loved me. So there are times I look and go, okay, am I being treated differently because I'm fair, because I don't speak black? I can if I have to, but I never know. So I thought, okay, I'm just gonna have to not worry about that and continue to be who I am. Um, so there were times I felt like that I was a little more, and I thought to myself, I wonder if I was dark, would they, or if I had more ethnic black features, would I be here? Or, and then it get to the point where I couldn't worry about that anymore. I just, because I can't change who I am or worry about who I'm not. Um, so yeah, I guess the answer to your question is possibly yes.
Right. Right. And it's interesting to hear you say that that there are certain character traits, there are certain um like dialects and ways of speaking that are associated like with the black identity, you know,
Yeah,
where you were reconciling the fact that you had people associating on both sides the fact that you spoke standard English as
yeah,
a good side. Oh, she's safe.
yeah.
Um, that's yeah. No, please go ahead.
No, I would get teased. And I took it kind of as by my black friends, like, girl, I don't know what you are. I'm like, that's right, keep them guessing. And I was an operator for a long time at a Southern Baptist university. And there was, I can count the black folks that went there pretty much on one hand. And they I'd watch the white men pass by and kind of ignore me. And there's another dynamic too, that I was a lot heavier, like almost 180 pounds heavier. Um, and as I lost weight, I watched them start speaking to me. So some of it was my weight, but I watched, thinking, I wonder would they treat me this way if I was dark, or would I be here sitting at the front? I couldn't figure it out sometimes. So I had to realize that it wasn't my place to worry about what they were doing. It's just my place to be myself.
There are different things that kind of spark your thoughts about like your place in these rooms that you're occupying that are predominantly white, predominantly black. Um, in what ways do you believe like sharing your personal narrative can contribute to like a broader conversation on civil rights and racial equality?
Just treat people like human beings, because they are, and we all need to learn that at times. We are all God's creation, and we ain't all his kids, but we all his creation. Just treat them that way. And I think that would just solve everything. God is not indicative of color, not at all, but we are. And when people say, oh, I don't see color, yeah, you do. We all see color. And it's really okay to see color. It is okay to know somebody's of a different culture, somebody's of a different race. And it's really okay to sit and have open dialogues about that. It's when we try to act like it doesn't exist, try to act, oh no, don't say that. Yeah, say that. Ask somebody something that might be uncomfortable. Say, can I ask you something personal? um how do you feel about this, or how do you feel? And I think the more comfortable we are relating to each other as human beings, and just asking people questions about their thoughts, their perspective, like you and I are doing, instead of acting like it don't exist. Hate is going to always exist. It did in Jesus' time. It's going on now. We can't ignore it. But if we just treat each other like the way God wants us to treat each other, we'd be a whole lot better off. Now, I know I wasn't supposed to preach, and I just did, so I'm sorry.
It's interesting because it's all connected to sharing your story and hoping that people will listen and
Yeah,
try to understand. And just the fact that you're sharing your story um, is just important, right? And having this and presenting a narrative. Um, how important is it to preserve stories like yours?
I think it's very important because people that are multiracial, I really believe, have been left out for a long time. You know, we've been placed in, well, if you're multiracial, and if you're multiracial mixed with black, you're black. Well, in my opinion, for black people to hold to that, well, that came from Jim Crow. So if you're holding to that, you're really holding to a Jim Crow standard, 1/8 all. Know your history of where that came from. It didn't come from black folk. It came from Jim Crow. So to hold to that, to me, is wrong. To deny your multi ethnicity, to me, it is a privilege. And here I get white folks because I'm part white. I like Jello salad. I like pumpkin pie, and I like tater pie. And I am not ashamed to say I like both. I like mashed taters and gravy, and I like rice. And I make a mean fried chicken. And I'm just open with, I'm a mixture of both. But I think people that are mixed have been made to feel like you have to choose. And that's why we have that little, what is that little group called, not MUD. It's something that it's an acronym for mixed race people, to go on something online. And it's because we have been overlooked and made to feel like we have to, if we're mixed with black, that we have to say we're black. I don't, because I'm not. And if my hair wasn't fuzzy like this, you would probably think, yo soy puertorriqueño, yo soy mexicana, yo hablo poquito español. You wouldn't know what I was. So I think it is important for mixed race people to really know who they are and be comfortable. I think a lot of times people that are mixed are not comfortable being mixed, and they feel they have to identify with one, and you don't. You can't be one race when you've got two parents of different races. That's just biologically not correct.
I know we're almost out of time, but if there's any lesson that you hope others will take away from hearing your story, just in the context of this series, what do you hope that lesson will be?
Love each other. Just love each other. That's the only thing that matters. People will forget what you said, but they won't forget how you made them feel. And when I'm around people, as a believer, I want them to feel the love of God. And the love of God is unconditional. And that's what I should display to other people as well. And that's all that I should display to other people, regardless of who they are, their color, their ethnicity, their identity. I am to show them the love of Christ. So that's my testimony. Can't make that somebody else's.